We are.
We are scientists.
We are researchers.
We are mathematicians.
We are engineers.
We are women in engineering.
We are problem solvers.
We are
collaborators.
We are friends.
We are competitors.
We are community.
We are diverse.
We are driven.
We are confident.
We are adventurous.
We are curious.
We are dreamers.
We are fun.
We are volunteers.
We are leaders.
We are entrepreneurs.
We are student athletes.
We are rocket scientists.
We are engineers.
We are safe.
We are sweet.
We are ship. We are She is Emmy.
We are Goldie-Craft.
We are resilient.
We are hopeful.
We are interdisciplinary.
We are inspiring.
We are CSE.
We are CSE.
We are CSE.
We are CSE.
We
are
graduating.
I think that means it's my turn. So I heard I could take this off. Speaking. So I'm Mats Heimdal, I'm the head of the Department of Computer Science, and I just want to make a few remarks, and then we'll move forward with this celebration. So I'm going to keep this short. My wife is convinced I became an academic because I love to hear myself talk. So we'll try to keep it short and not too painful. So first, I want to welcome you all to this scaled-back commencement celebration. There's been an enormous number of restrictions on really what we're allowed to do, whether we were going to be allowed to do anything. But we take the safety of students, staff, and faculty very seriously. So this is what we've been able to do, and we want to thank the College of Science and Engineering for supporting and making this happen. So this might not be the wild party we're hoping for, and it's also 9 a.m. in the morning, so we're going to have to go a little easy here. Second, I want to congratulate you on your achievements here, the graduating students. This is really your day. There'll be another one in a week, I believe, with the big commencement online, but this is a time to celebrate. And you've worked really hard and overcome a lot of adversity to get to where you are right now, far more than any other graduating class in recent memory. And this is where I would normally say that congratulations, but it's all over now. But sadly, I can't say that this year. First, I'm sure some of you have finals and projects due in the next few days. Sorry, I had to remind you of that. Don't forget those. And in addition, we're of course still in the middle of a pandemic and a lot of other situations around us that we have to wrestle with. In fact, I think you, our young graduate students here, have lived through a lot more history than most of us have in our entire lives leading up to these last 4 years when you started college. Since you started here, we've seen in no particular order, it's been historic wildfires and other natural disasters that well, it really seems like I have once-in-a-century disasters 2 or 3 times a year, which is a little odd. Notre Dame burnt down. Lots of interesting events in no particular order here. A private company putting astronauts in space, that's a new. 2 impeachments of the same president. That never happened before. We had the George Floyd murder, of course. An event that led to a huge awakening and realization of the deep-rooted inequities and racial tension that we have throughout society. And on a related note, we had the Me Too movement that really brought attention to sexism and misogyny permeating pretty much everything that goes on around us. Brexit. Social media, some of you might go to Facebook or Twitter or other places. Social media pretty much destroying the fabric of society. Korean film won Best Picture Oscar, that's new. We have our first female president of the University of Minnesota. We'll hear from her shortly. And of course, we have the last one and the big one, which is a really unprecedented pandemic. We haven't seen anything like this, or we've never seen anything like this. I think last time was in the Spanish flu in 1918. And I want to thank you for being really resilient and rolling with this and rolling with us through this really rough time. It's gone a lot better moving all our operations online than I could have imagined just a year ago. And much of that is thanks to the students being very flexible, resilient, and just owning the situation and stepping up to make our lives easier. So I want to really thank you for that. So it's been a wild ride, and it's not over. I'm sure the next few years will be quite exciting as well, now when you step out into the workplace. So, but in this mess, don't despair. You're going to be in a position to shape the next 50 years of technology. And that is a great power, because as you have seen, technology will shape society, and it will shape our future. So with this great power, of course, comes great responsibility. And the next 50 years, they're going to belong to you. So therefore, I'm really urging you to please do a better job than we might have done. Go out there and do a better job than the generation before you, and I think we're going to end up in a good place. We're counting on you. And on that uplifting message, I'm going to stop for now and hand it over to our Associate Dean for Research in CSE and fellow Computer Science and Engineering Professor Joe Constant, who's going to say a few words that I hope will help you move forward. Joe?
Thank you, Mats, and good morning. Thank you for inviting me to say a few words here, even knowing that as a tenured professor, I'm only trained to speak in chunks of 50 or 75 minutes, and it'll be a side bet as to which one this is. But I really only want to make 3 points. I want to say something about the past and congratulations, something about the present and gratitude, and something about the future, and hopefully a few words of advice. You've come a long way. Before we get to this last year, which may feel like it was longer than the full 4 years put together, and for some of you, different amounts of time, you all started from different places. Some of you came in with significant skills as in programming or doing work on the internet. Some of you came knowing fairly little. At some point along the way, I'm sure many of you experienced the same thing I did in computer science, when one day you'd been in the shower for 35, 40 minutes and you realized that lather, rinse, repeat was an infinite loop. And you had to find a way to break out of that. And little by little, I hope we helped you. We taught you some Java, some Prel. You learned how to use Matrix, and soon enough you were head and shoulders above your peers and able to do good computing work. And no, you'll never get that 30 seconds back, but you can inflict it one day on your children or others. But seriously, what followed was a remarkably rigorous curriculum where you went off and learned that computing is not the same as just programming, where there's deep math and theory behind it, where there's a substantial amount of design, and where you had to learn to work with each other in teams and do things that went beyond what you could do yourselves. And I hope you take some time, if not right now, over these next few weeks, to look back and realize everything that you've learned, and to congratulate yourself. We congratulate you, but you should congratulate you, because you've really done amazing things over your time here. Second, a word or two of thanks. And this is going to focus on this past year. This has been crazy. I think we all know that. I know that on behalf of both the college and on behalf of you, I can express thanks to the faculty and the teaching assistants and the staff that supported them in pivoting almost instantaneously as we learned in matters of days that it's not going to be safe to be physically together again. People learned Zoom. People learned to reorganize what they did. Some people in this very department did some amazing pivoting to decide, wait a minute, I'd better record all of this stuff so we can spend our time together online on things that work well that way. And that's been impressive. But it's not just the faculty, it's not just the staff working to support them in the classroom. It's the advisors, it's the essential workers who, for the times that we were here, managed to keep the buildings operating and working, to keep the restrooms clean so we could be here today. It's all of those folks. It's the families that many of you surprised and said, guess what? I'm going to be home for a while, and welcomed you back in and offered the kind of support and balance between being back together and providing independence that you needed. And most especially, it's you. As one of those people who was in a box on Zoom teaching a class, the patience and tolerance that folks on the other side showed as we struggled through this and learned it together are just amazingly impressive. And the amount of hard work people put in, not saying that, oh, this is just not going to work, I give up, but saying, yeah, this is harder, I guess I'm going to have to work harder, but we'll make it work. You just deserve immense gratitude, and you deserve a lot of credit. Last, let's look forward. And there's no better way to look forward than to start with a grammar lesson. And so we're going to talk about good and well. Right? You can use them in different ways. You know, if I say I'm well, that means, thankfully, I don't have COVID at the moment. If I say I'm good, that means, well, either I'm morally uprighteous or maybe I'm good, like I can really insert a joke in the middle of a talk and get away with it. But I want to use good and well to encourage you as you go forward to do well, succeed, be happy with your life. Don't be afraid of being financially successful. When you are, if you feel like it would make you more financially successful to, throw a building our way, we'll talk afterwards. But also do good. Your generation has been amazing at recognizing the historic injustices in this country and in countries around the world. You've also recognized the injustices in this very field. The fact that, frankly, my generation built algorithms as if we were doing abstract math and programming with no consequences. And we never thought about what those algorithms were going to be used for and how they could hurt people and how they could be discriminatory and how they could have consequences that would never have happened if we hadn't enabled them. And it's your generation that's called us to account for that. And so as you're out there doing well, think about doing good. Think about that in terms of not doing harm, but also how you can use these amazing talents that you have and that you have collectively to make things better for people, whether that's economic justice, whether that's, the coincidences that technology have finally allowed us to bring accountability to what happens out on the streets with video, whether that's organizing people. You find your own path. It's not for us to tell you what the path is, but find your path and do good. And one more thing, be well. Don't define your life by your paycheck. Absolutely, I hope you are excited every day to go to work wherever you eventually work. But I also hope you are building relationships and friendships and learning every day and growing all the time, and that you're equally excited by your hobbies and your other activities and your service, and that you're excited to spend time with your friends and your family, and that when you look back, you realize, wow, I had so many different things, and I hope I divided my time among them well. Finally, one last word, don't be a stranger. Come back, visit us, write, help us continue to improve, keep in touch, and we look forward to hearing about all of the wonderful things you're doing. Congratulations.
So thank you, Dean Constant. That's Joe. Now it takes us to our student speaker. Do we have our student speaker somewhere? There. Tyler. Yes, it's Tyler Wendland. He's graduated in the fall of 2020 and with a BS in computer science. And he's really keeping in touch. He loves us so much that he decided to stay for an MS degree through our integrated BS-MS program, so good for you. And he served as an undergraduate TA for multiple CSI courses and been involved in the department in all kinds of ways. So, Tyler?
Thank you, Mats. Hi, everybody. I want to thank the department for giving me an opportunity to speak today. I also really wanted to thank them for hosting this commencement. It was a lot of work to do in a very short amount of time, but I think it was worth it. And it feels like a return to normalcy. Almost. We're almost there, guys. It's difficult to summarize the accomplishments that we've done in these short 4 years, because to get to where we are today, we've done a lot. From your first recursion lab to the first time you had to take an exam and write code on paper. Isn't that weird? You have to write code on paper. And for whatever reason, a lot of our classes had to do with buses, like routing buses. I still don't know what's up with that. But for whatever you've done in these 4 years, and for whatever you're proud of, congratulations. Computer science is an interesting field when you start as an undergrad, and I think it's very unique in this way because there can be such a large gap of prior knowledge from student to student. We sat by freshmen who had programmed dozens of mobile apps for fun in high school, but we also sat by freshmen who just watched Hidden Figures and wanted to see what this coding stuff was all about. And that's a challenge for students and professors alike. How do you take students who are in all different places and make them feel on common ground? That's not something that's easy to do. So I really want to thank the professors that went the extra mile to make students feel like they belong in computer science early on, because that sense of belonging is super important. Computer science is an interesting field in a lot of other ways. It's a major that, at first glance, makes people ask, well, is it really a science? Back home, a lot of people still think that my major is about fixing computers, like it's IT. And while it might be difficult to explain what a compiler is to your grandmother at Thanksgiving, I do think that our breadth, our variety of material is a strength in our field. Edsger Dijkstra, a pioneer in computer science, used to argue that programming should be strictly taught as its own branch of mathematics. And that might have been true at one point, back when computer science was just a bunch of guys with chalk, answering stuff on chalkboards. But while there is quite a bit of math involved, maybe more than some of us wanted, I do think that computer science has grown past that definition. With the ubiquity of computers, the questions that computer scientists are answering have shifted. 50 years ago, researchers were asking questions like, what's the quickest way to sort a list? And now they're asking questions like, Can we use robots to communicate with children to detect autism at an earlier age? Or can we learn about climate change by using data from weather patterns to predict future events? Those are both University of Minnesota research projects, by the way. The difference now between modern computer science questions and those from the past, most of them anyway, is that now humans are part of the discussion. What began as a science literally contained in one room, just a big one computer in one room, now touches every human on the planet. And that's very cool, and it's very enterprising if you're just graduating with a degree in computer science. But it might leave you wondering if this leaves you with some responsibility. Now this question about the role of humanity in computer science isn't something that I have an answer for, or maybe doesn't have an answer. But it does remind me of a similar question, perhaps the most unsolved question in computer science. Why do so many people feel like they don't belong in our major? And that might be a weird thing to get hung up on in a room full of graduates. Obviously, we all belong in computer science. But it's a question you've probably thought of before, in some form or another. And as computer science becomes more and more about answering questions about humans, it's something that we need to think about. It's a question that shows up in a lot of ways. Maybe you were the only woman in an upper division class of 30 people, and you wondered how that happened. Maybe your professor is using Star Wars references to describe an algorithm, and you have no idea what they're talking about. Or maybe you didn't get a cool summer internship when all your friends did. Or a professor never got back to you about a research inquiry. These are all real events that happen all the time, that happen here, that can make someone feel alone. And then we had a pandemic, and that made everything worse. And I'm sure that last year, when this stuff started, you were told by someone, well, all of your work is done on the computer anyway, so it's not like that much is changing. But it did change. It's a lot more difficult to stay involved with classes, to network with professors, to keep up with friends when it's all online. I met a lot of very kind, incredible people at this university through our major. And once we've been online, it's been tough. It's been very tough to keep up with all of them. So while you might be feeling excited for graduating, and maybe relieved that you don't have to check Canvas for grades anymore, you also might be feeling like you have a degree, but you aren't really a computer scientist. You just sort of winged it in the last few years. You're an imposter. Let me be clear. Imposter syndrome is everywhere in our major. It is an experience susceptible to lots of people for lots of reasons. Computer science is a very competitive field. It's very easy for some in computer science to wear their success on their sleeve, and many should. There are so many incredible advancements done with computer science. But if you ever feel like your peers have passed you up, like you've fallen short of your ambitions, especially now when you're on the cusp of the rest of your life, and you're feeling like the world has already passed you by, just know that everybody feels like that sometimes. It's a shared experience. And our major is so broad that it is impossible for one person to reach all aspects of it. So there will always be somebody who reached a goal that you haven't. There's so many goals. There are times in computer science when it feels like the sky's the limit and you can solve any problem, until you take formal languages and automata theory and you learn that there are some problems that nobody can solve. But then there are days where it feels like you can't program anything. Computer science is, at its heart, problem solving. It's difficult. It harbors the same aches and pains that cause writer's block and artist's block. And that's because, like art and like writing, programming requires creativity. So don't sell yourself short on your bad days when you're not feeling particularly creative. And you will have bad days if you haven't had 100 of them already. So be creative. Be persistent on the days when you aren't creative. And perhaps most importantly, be kind. Remember that people are only able to do their best when they feel like they belong. And we need people in our major to feel like they belong, because we've got a lot of work to do. Thank you.
Yes, you can applaud. Thank you very much. I believe we have, do we have videos coming on now?
Hello, class of 2021. It's your graduation day. You made it, and I couldn't be prouder of all of you. I'm also proud of and very grateful for your professors, advisors, and all those, including your parents and family, who've guided you along the way. Graduates, we all recognize that the last year has been challenging, and yet through it all, you've risen up. You've put the well-being of others above all else, and you've exhibited a collective spirit to confront a series of crises that are individually and historically significant on their own merit: health and economics, climate and social justice. And at every turn, you've truly embodied the words of Maya Angelou, who noted, "You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them." You have not been reduced by them. I'm confident that as you lean into the next steps in your journey, you will use your life experiences, especially your most recent life experiences, as a guide, and that you will find that navigating uncertainty is the most important skill you've acquired or that anyone can have. And you have it. So when a relative or neighbor congratulates you later on your accomplishment and says, "We're counting on you," it means they know you can do it, that you're resilient and can persevere through uncertainty. It means that you have values despite pressure. It means that you can deal with difficult circumstances and excel in the moment. It means that you understand that when you help each other and align yourself with people who make you your best self, you make everyone better. And it means that you're prepared for what most thought leaders see as the greatest age of history. Graduates, as you define for yourself this exciting path of promise and worlds yet unseen, I hope you recognize the uniqueness of this time, the uniqueness of the experience you've had at the University of Minnesota, and that you know and can feel how we're all rooting for you. So good luck, be healthy, be bold and inspired, and I look forward to seeing and hearing about all the incredible things you will do to transform the world in the months and years ahead. Congratulations, class of 2021.
Yeah, so now everybody has asked you to do good and do well, so no pressure on anybody here. Now it's time for reading of the names, and I believe that this is going to work out. We're going to have ushers somewhere there. Nathan, thank you. Oh, and there. To help guide you so we don't have a mob scene. Is not going to happen this morning, I think, but do this in an orderly manner. Don't forget your name card. If you forget your name card, you're not going to be allowed to graduate. You're going to enter that side, give your card to Professor Hopper, and cross the stage. There's a little X right in front of me where you can stop. There'll be pictures taken, and then exit out this way. And there's another photo stop over there with the guy that I think is going to rain. And there, I believe you can take your mask off quickly so mom and dad can see who you actually are and not just a generic student that we propped up over there. And then return to your seat, and then we'll wrap up when everybody's gone through and head outside for maybe some more pictures and a little bit of chit-chat. So are we ready? Get going.
Colin Hammerding. Jicheng Du. Logan Jahant. Aaron Councilman. Olivia Smith. Lam Win. Yiming Yao. Sishan. Matthew Lane Kozakowski. Hao Wu. Avery. Michael Lucky. Brandon Shank. Evan Newland. Congratulations, everyone.
Yes, this merits a round of applause. Congratulations, everybody. So this really brings us to the end of our little celebration here. But before we leave, I want to thank a few people. Well, first, we've thanked you already for brightening our lives. But the student advising team, we have Luke and Jacqueline, Kelly, Josie. They've been rocks for us really here during this year, helping you out, helping us out, and making sure we know what's going on. And of course, Aaron and Dania and Terry and Faith, that's been doing a lot of work making sure all of this works. And so thank you to all of you. Without them, this simply would not have happened. So thank you. After this is done, we're going to exit through that way. Thank you. And we'll be outside if you guys want to chit-chat a little bit. And if you have other people that want to take a picture. I think this computer science screen is set up over there in case you want to take pictures in front of the computer science background. And there'll be some swag over there as well to pick up. You might have seen that when you walked in. So sneak over there and meet with us, and we can chit-chat a little bit and pick up some T-shirts and other things. Unfortunately, we can't confer any degrees here. We can't give you your diplomas. We couldn't even shake your hand or give you a well-deserved hug or a pat on the back. And I'm really sorry about that, but that's just the nature of graduating, going to school throughout the pandemic. Nevertheless, I want to thank you all for brightening our days, making our lives better, making the department a great place to work and to study. So stay in touch and stay out of trouble. So thank you and congratulations. So, do we have...
I got my bachelor's degree in 1969, so exactly 50 years ago. I've been at the University of Minnesota for nearly 45 years. So I came here and have grown up with our computer science department, so to speak. So it's tremendously pleasing and satisfying to see how that department from a very, very small unit has grown to such prominence.
So when I joined, I think we had 14 faculty. I was the first female faculty. Now we're more than 50 faculty. I think what still remains the same is the spirit of being very friendly to each other, being willing to cooperate with each other, help each other.
The Department of Computer Science and Engineering is strong across the board in many different disciplines, many different sub-areas of computer science. There are also opportunities for strong collaborations across non-computing disciplines. And I think this is what the future of computing is going to be, where computer science grows beyond the theories and the practices of the discipline itself and has a lot more collaborations across disciplines that are traditionally not been computing-oriented.
Computer science today is not just about training in the technical. It's about training how do you take that technical and apply it to real-world problems where the input from the humanities or the arts or other sciences and engineering is just as critical to the overall solution.
We've evolved. We've created labs where students learn hands-on with help right in front of them. We've grown by a factor of 2, 3, maybe 4 in the students we serve, bringing in excellent teaching faculty, new teaching techniques, and updating our curriculum to reflect what it is that people need in computer science today.
At first, I was a little, intimidated by the professors. I was like, oh, you're doing all this stuff. You don't really have time to, talk to students. But then you go to their office hours and you realize, oh, you really do care about the material you're teaching and the students you're teaching it to. And I think a lot of them really show that by taking the time to have conversations about not just what's on the homework, but also how is this going to play out in the real world and how will I face this in my career.
We get to see students be educated to go out and work in industry in our own state, nationally, and even globally. And they're making positive differences not only in my life, but in others' lives.
I used to read a lot of old science fiction, and computer science is really the only way that we've exceeded all expectations. So I think in the next 50 years, we'll continue to see computer science surprise us.
50 years ago, I don't think the faculty back then could have had any idea where we were going to be today. And for us to try to predict what's going to happen 50 years in the future would be quite arrogant. All I know is that it's going to be amazing, and we definitely want to be part of the journey getting there.